The world has become obsessed with hacks. We are sold the illusion that if we simply wake up at 4 a.m., consume a specific green juice, or download the latest productivity app, our lives will undergo a magical metamorphosis. Yet, look around you. Most people are more stressed, more distracted, and more overwhelmed than ever before. They are running a perpetual race on a treadmill, exerting immense effort, but ultimately moving nowhere. These individuals belong to the 99% who exist in a reactive state, governed by fleeting emotions and a desperate, constant need for external validation. If you aspire to enter the top 1%, you do not need more hacks. You need a philosophy that has withstood 2,000 years of human chaos. You need the habits of the Stoics. These are not merely abstract ideas. They are mental weapons. The first habit is what the Stoics called objective representation. Most people navigate life like a leaf caught in a gale. If someone cuts them off in traffic, they remain enraged for an hour. If a manager delivers negative feedback, their entire weekend is tainted. They allow external events to dictate their internal state. To join the 1%, you must break this cycle. You must learn to perceive things exactly as they are, stripped of the subjective stories you weave around them. Marcus Aurelius practiced this by describing high-status objects in their most base terms. He would look at expensive, royal robes and remind himself that it was merely wool dyed with the blood of a shellfish. You must apply the same rigor to your own problems. When someone insults you, they are not attacking your dignity. They are simply making vibrations with their mouth. When you suffer a financial loss, you have not failed. You have merely returned currency to the world. By stripping away the emotional drama, you remain calm while others descend into panic. That composure is your competitive advantage. While the 99% are clouded by rage or fear, you view the path forward with absolute clarity. The second habit is the awareness of the clock. Most people find the prospect of their own mortality deeply uncomfortable. They spend their lives attempting to ignore the one certainty of human existence. But for the Stoic, the fact that our time is finite is the ultimate clarifier. When you live with the constant awareness that your time is a limited resource, you stop squandering it on trivialities. You stop doom scrolling. You stop wasting energy arguing with people whose opinions you don't even value. The 99% live as if they have 500 years at their disposal. They procrastinate on their greatness, laboring under the delusion that there will always be a tomorrow. However, the 1% understands that tomorrow is a privilege, not a right. Realizing your presence here has an expiration date does not lead to sadness. It makes you dangerous. It instills a sense of urgency that no motivational video could ever replicate. It forces you to focus on the essential. Every decision you make is filtered through the lens of, if this were my final act, would I be proud of it? This habit strips the fluff from your life and leaves only the steel. The third habit is the practice of voluntary hardship. We live in the most comfortable era in human history, but comfort is a drug, and the 99% are hopelessly addicted to it. When you rely on constant comfort, you become fragile. If the Wi-Fi falters or the coffee runs cold, your day is ruined. The Stoic knows that the only way to be truly free is to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Seneca would frequently set aside days to live on the scantiest of food and wear coarse clothing, simply to prove to himself that his happiness was not contingent on his bank account. By intentionally seeking discomfort, whether through cold showers, fasting, or choosing the harder path, you shatter the chains of luxury. When you realize you can survive, and even thrive, with very little, you become invincible. While the 99% flee from pain, you walk directly through it, forging a level of mental toughness that renders you unstoppable. The fourth habit is the radical ownership of your internal citadel. This is the core of Stoicism, the dichotomy of control. Most people squander 90% of their energy fretting over things they cannot change, the economy, the weather, or the opinions of strangers. This is a massive drain on your cognitive resources. The 1% does the opposite. They ruthlessly audit their focus. They realize they only control two things: their own thoughts and their own actions. Everything else is indifferent. Imagine the power of an individual who genuinely does not care about matters outside their influence. If the market crashes, they do not despair. They simply ask, What is the most virtuous action I can take right now? This habit turns you into a fortress. You become the pilot of your life, while everyone else is merely a passenger on a ship they do not control. The fifth and final habit is the evening review. The 99% end their day by numbing themselves with screens and distractions. They learn nothing from their mistakes, so they repeat them with clockwork regularity. A Stoic concludes their day with a trial. They sit down and play back the day like a cinematic reel. They ask themselves, where did I lose my temper? Where was I driven by greed? How can I perform better tomorrow? This is not about self-flagellation. It is about data. It is about constant, incremental improvement. If you improve by just 1% every day because you are actually paying attention to your life, you will be unrecognizable a year from now. You are identifying the glitches in your character and debugging them in real time. Integrating these 5 habits is far from easy. If it were, the world would be populated by sages instead of people controlled by their impulses. It requires a brutal level of honesty, a willingness to stop pointing fingers at your boss, your past, or the economy, and finally accepting that you are the architect of your own character. It is about taking total, uncompromising responsibility for the only thing that truly belongs to you, your mind. If you commit to this path, if you choose to see the world without the filter of your ego, to treat your time like the disappearing asset it is, to embrace the friction of discomfort, and to ruthlessly audit your focus, you won't just be getting ahead of the competition. You will be playing a different game entirely, on a field they cannot even perceive. You will develop a stillness that others mistake for luck, and a level of mental clarity that functions like a superpower in moments of crisis. While the 99% remain in a waiting room, hoping for the world to change so they can finally find peace, the 1% understands the secret. You change yourself first, and then the world loses its power to touch you. You become the master of your own internal kingdom, and once you have achieved that, you have already won.